Good morning, everybody. I'm going to talk a little bit about seals because seals as marine top predators have been acknowledged as suitable indicator species or species group for marine environments and their health and condition. And we have been studying seals in the Gulf of Finland now for 25 years in a certain cooperative network. And the last 5 years have been rather intensive with several applied studies that I would like to bring to you today, and a little bit then open the backgrounds why we need to study the seals together. So there are two species of seals in the Gulf of Finland. In that sense, the Gulf is very rich in seals, and the both species have their own statuses and problems there that are of importance when we want to understand what is the environmental condition or the status of the Gulf itself. The first slide is about the status of the ring seals in the Baltic Sea in general, and particularly we have to pay attention to the status of the ring seals in the Gulf of Finland, because the ring seals can be divided generally in like two big groups or subpopulations in the Baltic. The northern population, which inhabits the Gulf of Bothnia, they are quite numerous, still over 10,000 individuals, and there is a slight increase. The status is not the best, but still quite optimistic, while the other three, the southern populations that inhabit just South Finland, Gulf of Finland, and the Estonian west coast, they are small populations, quite separated from the others, and all of them are rather small. So if we look them separately, then the Finnish population, the Finnish the archipelago sea is just a couple of hundred strong, and the Estonian west coast population is approximately 1,000 strong. But here we have to point out the Gulf of Finland, the ring seal subpopulation, or the small isolated population that really is only a little bit above 100 individuals. And in the world scale, this is very, very rare and vulnerable population, because the iconic species like Saimaa ring seal or the Mediterranean monk seal that are considered to be critically endangered in the world, they still are found in 300 or 400. So basically we're talking about the extremely small seal population. Next slide, please. And we have done some surveys, conditions allowing, of course, already since 90s, using a standard method of counting seals over ice fields from airplane. And this is a quite robust method, but gives good results if the research effort is sufficient. And from this table, you can see that if the minimum effort should cover like 10% of the total ice area in Gulf of Finland, we have succeeded to exceed that number. So whatever result we get is quite representative. And the right column then gives the population estimate. And as you see, since the recorded times, the top number or the biggest population estimate comes from previous year, and it is 100, and I cannot see it myself, but about 130 individuals. So this is really a very small population. Next slide, please. And the other work we have been doing is by using telemetry tags. We have tried to find out the whereabouts of the seals, how they use the sea area, where are the core habitats, and are there exchanges in between different parts of the Baltic Sea. And here you can kind of overview picture of all the 23 instruments that we have used on seals. And as you can see, the area is very much restricted to the eastern part of the Gulf of Finland, and the connections to the west are quite small. And I would like to emphasize that the 23 seals that we have marked, theoretically, it is 1/5 of the total population, because we don't know that we have been catching the same animals twice. So basically, we have marked quite a big proportion of the very small population. Next slide, please. And if we look at the individual seals, then you can see that they really can be very, very local in terms of their home ranges. It only is up to some 100 square kilometers, and they stay there during the very long period. So they are very local, and it means that whatever happens in the environment, they are very open to that influence. And just these are two individuals as an example, but we have this understanding that they live in smaller social groups. Then we can assume that this kind of restricted movement is representing not the whole group, but at least not only individuals, but this is how they use the sea. Next, please. And by looking at the behavior, we have lots of oceanographic data coming back from the tags. We can distinguish between the rest and active periods, between feeding and breeding, etc. And here we have like outlined the main like biological key habitats in the Gulf of Finland for the ring seals for this very small population. And you can see the black square in the Kurgalski and the Russian Islands area represents the core habitat, the core area where they stay all the year round, while the blue squares show like satellite areas where they are found in summer, where they forage, where they eat fish, and the red the square denominates then the breeding area on ice in the northern part of the Gulf. So you see, in the terms of the international cooperation, there are the functions of the seals are also divided by different sea areas and countries. So we have to make a common effort to understand the life cycle and the functioning of the environment and react accordingly. Next slide, please. And if we look at the possible connections of the seals to the other parts and sea areas, then there's a good example of always there's a kind of a crazy mouse in the lab. That if you are already getting an understanding of how the seal system works, then usually there's one guy who spoils it all, and we had such individual in our sample too. But it's just interesting, but also significant to understand how the seals are using the sea. This individual was staying in the core area most of the time, and suddenly in the autumn took a trip to Estonia, and then went back straightly. Just came to Estonia, made a couple of rounds, and went back to Russia. We don't know why it did it, but they do such things, and it's good to know that these things happen because they may share some light into the degree of isolation of the populations, with the possible consequences of gene drifts, etc., and the possible scenarios of becoming extinct or surviving over longer time periods. And there are just some numerical data indicating how dedicated the seal is when it goes to one place to another. So it all happened in a constant linear movement of 3.5 kilometers per hour, and for several days. So these guys are very capable of moving in the sea. Now, the gray seal is a different species with different status in the whole Baltic. It's mostly inhabiting the whole Baltic Sea, but it can be found more in the northern parts of the sea, including Gulf of Finland. Next slide, please. Yes, next slide, please. And with the gray seals, one main observation that we have had over the time is that the number of gray seal in the Baltic Sea has increased since we started to work with the seals a couple of decades ago. And during the last 5 years, as I mentioned, we have put more effort into the internationally coordinated counts, and we have realized that when the number of the gray seals in the whole Baltic has increased, let's say, 2 times, then in the Gulf of Finland the same has happened, but the increase has been like 4 times. So proportionally, the increase in the Gulf of Finland for the gray seals is very high, and that brings about new challenges to the conservation and management of the Gulf, because the species has not been abundant there before. Historically, it was a ring seal Gulf, but nowadays the ring seals are going like not becoming extinct, but they're becoming very rare, and the gray seal is like coming in. So we are seeing a big change in the environment with some applications then for conservation and ecology. Next slide, please. And if we look at the gray seal habitats, we don't have this very fancy telemetry projects done with them in the Gulf yet, but we see that there are very good suitable gray seal habitats available in the Gulf and already taken into use by gray seals. So this is how it looks like in the southern parts of the Gulf. This is pretty much as we have also in other parts of Estonia. And the next slide will indicate how it looks like in the northern part of the Gulf of Finland in the Russian Sea area. And this is the granite rocks. They are very typical for that kind of coast, and this provides them a really abundant habitat that they could occupy. And as I said, the numbers are growing. So next slide, please. And one of the concerns that we are now facing, not only us but the seals too, is that the winters are becoming warmer, and both the species we are talking about are ice related. They are ice loving seals. They need ice for their reproduction, for successful breeding. But these kind of winters, like traditional Gulf of Finland winters, when you can walk over the Gulf from Estonia to Finland, have become extremely rare in the past decades. And it influences our research effort because, as I wrote here too, it's not only the favorite key habitat for the seals, it's also the favorite key habitat for the seal biologists. So we are running into some problems regarding the research we are doing. Next slide, please. Because the modern winters, the modern springs, April, the sweetest time to look at the breeding seals or the molting seals, to count them. Usually the ice melts already in the Gulf, leaving us without vital information. Next slide, please. So just to sum it up briefly, it is that the ring situation in the Gulf is really very critical. The species might become there locally extinct and replaced by another seal, and we have to do quite an effort to understand its demands for the environment and habitats, and try to see that in all three countries these demands are taken into account in different ways we use the sea, including the marine spatial planning, let's say, not building maybe windmills on the crucial seal habitats. The gray seal is moving in, and basically it's putting some pressure on the seals too, because the situations between the relation between fisheries and seals is pretty bad, and the gray seals tend to be the species behind the conflict, and the ring seals would suffer from the increasing conflict. So we have to be aware that this conflict will escalate also in the eastern part of the Gulf of Finland. And well, I cannot see my slide myself, but just to conclude that the seals are a very good instrument to study marine ecosystem. Also, they can be used as platforms for putting sensors and letting them to study the sea for us. But this all can be done and must be done in cooperation, because it's quite a challenging work, and it very often takes people from different countries and disciplines to solve these challenges. So we have been studying seals and cooperating now for 25 years. So I wouldn't say we need a new start, but we need definitely a more dense cooperative network around the Baltic that addresses the problems with the marine mammals. Thank you for attention. Yeah, last slide, please. Yeah, you can.
Thank you very much for these really interesting results. You managed to keep also the time schedule very well. So we have, again, the time for one short question, please. Okay, I can see that. Please, there is in the back. Yeah.
Yeah, hello, Mart. So I would like to ask about how the contamination is affecting the health of the seals in this area you have studied.
There have been no dedicated studies in the Gulf of Finland so far. I think that is one of the potential further areas of cooperation and research, but we know from the other parts of the Baltic that the ring seal is rather sensitive to contaminants. And looking at the very small population in the Gulf of Finland and knowing that contaminant loads have been there historically very, very high, I think it's worth of looking into their health. That does their health allow them to recover? because we see some pups every year, but the number of offspring doesn't quite support the very small population. So that is one of the priority fields, I think, for the close future, that if there's interest and possibility, we have to look into the health issues, namely in terms of pollutants.
Thank you very much, and applause once again.